My fascination with the city is more or less as follows. As an aspirant systems thinker, I think, of course, of leverage points. And when I think of a city, I think of an entity that's been around for whatever, 6,500 years. It still only occupies 2% of the world's land surface, yet houses nearly 60% of humanity. It produces more carbon emissions than anywhere else, more ideas, knowledge than anywhere else. It consumes more than anywhere else. And it has a profound impact on the course of history. It's been said that the future of humanity will play out in cities, hence, what I've called this conversation where the future plays out. My question is, in that context, what is the role of leadership in a city?
It's an intriguing question. If you think about why did we as humanity form cities in the first place, when we had all the space in the world, but why did we congregate in quite this way? Why did we evolve the way we live in this particular way? And I think there's a sort of emergent answer to that from the complexity of human behavior. And there is an aspirant dimension to that, teleological dimension. In other words, it's what we actually want. Of course, with emergence, you often get not exactly what you want. So in a sense, cities have always drawn leaders. I think that's a first important understanding, that you're already working with a large number of people who are already in various fields, institutionally or intellectually or socially, leading in some form or another. That is an important insight when you're trying to lead a city which consists of these people. So you're familiar with some of my writing on smart cities for smart people. And of course, I just a moment ago illustrated the enormous burden of espousing the title leadership. So you want to lead in a place already heavily populated by leaders. Wow, what an enormous opportunity, privilege, and complex burden. So there's a kind of meta leadership dimension here that if you're trying to lead a city, you're already leading people who are already leaders. For that reason, I think it's important that when you are leading a city, you're conscious of this incredible pool of talent available at your disposal. And I think smart cities of the future will be those that recognize in a humble way the incredible smarts of the leaders who live in those cities and will make the most of that. And so you're almost thinking of a city as an institution then, in the sense that you're thinking of citizens as talent. That perspective we're not seeing an awful lot of when we look at traditional city designs and the way that decisions, for example, have classically been made in cities. Those decisions have often been made for or on behalf of citizens. I think what's starting to emerge, of course, is decisions by citizens, a much more evolved form of decision-making in cities. So as someone who's curious about how the mind works, I'm fascinated by how decisions are made and why they're made in a particular way. And I think in cities, what's starting to emerge is the opportunity for leaders to connect with other leaders in a much more meaningful way and allow cities to be co-designed for the future, of course, with all the fantastic principles from systems thinking around living systems and so on.
Just to reflect back on what you said, essentially, or a useful way of looking at a city is it is a complexity which has emerged over time, certainly about 6,500 years. And the opportunity there, stroke need for a leader, is the ability to connect with the multitude of different minds and people in that city. Thirdly, given that observation, it's perhaps not such a good idea to run a city as has been run to date, and that is more hierarchically. In other words, I would imagine sometimes at the expense of a citizen.